Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the SoundMoney Sound Principles podcast. Josh Anderson here with Zach Davis. How are you, Zach?
I'm good. Hey, everybody.
Hey, today is a special day, Zach. We've been putting this together for a few weeks now, or better part of a month, and we couldn't be more excited for the opportunity that our listeners have today. We have one of our good entrepreneurial friends from Southeast Idaho with us today, who we think is just going to be able to share a lot of golden nuggets with all the listeners around his experiences in life, his experiences as an entrepreneur, his experiences in winning and losing in business, and his experiences out in the marketplace. And so we're super excited to have with us today Tyler Martin. Tyler, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you letting me come on and chat. And like you said, it's been a few weeks coming. I was in the thick of the summer, just busy as can be when I couldn't do it last time. So right now it's perfect.
Oh, we are so glad that you made time for us today. At the end of the day, entrepreneurs, one of the beautiful things about them is it's hard for them to get their schedules lined up together because they got so many things going. And so we're excited today because Tyler is a lifelong entrepreneur. He's somebody who's had his hands in lots of different successful businesses. And we want to maybe start today, Tyler, maybe introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And if you wouldn't even mind, Zach and I know you, and we know all of your awesome things that you've accomplished in the world, but maybe just take a minute and maybe tell us a little about who you are and maybe even how you got your start as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, if we're going clear back, I always thought I would just graduate high school and go to college, get a degree, be a dentist or something, have a big paycheck and everything would be good. And
introducing Zach Davis and Josh Anderson with the SoundMoney podcast.
I got home from an LDS mission and started going to school, and very quickly I found and this is not every professor, and I may dissuade some people from going to college, but it's never because there's something wrong with college. It just depends on you. But I just kind of figured out pretty quickly, a lot of my professors didn't have a lot of business success. And I was like, man, I don't really want to learn this. I actually just want to get in it and see what I can do. Maybe not the greatest way of going about it, but and Zach was actually very pivotal in beginning our first business. My brother and Zach, they shared an office together, and I came and chatted with both of them and wanted to start a business. I didn't really care what it was. I just wanted to start something. I was coaching gymnastics at the time at Madison Gymnastics in Rexburg. And there's just this big open empty wall. And the owner had talked. He's like, it'd be fun to put a rock climbing wall or something up, but I don't think they were ever going to do it. And so we ended up just writing up a contract and renting that wall from them for years. And that's how we got our start. I don't even know where you want me to go from there. There's been a lot since then. I was kind of a part-time entrepreneur for a long time. I was a paramedic and a firefighter for 10 years during all of that. Kind of difficult to juggle 2 days on and 4 days off with also being an entrepreneur. So about 5 years ago, just went full in, just working for ourselves and trying to build several little things. And little in the beginning, but have grown to be something much larger, which is kind of my philosophy around business. A lot of people, they get very nervous and fearful, right? Like, quit my job and go out full time. I don't think that's always necessary. I've always had kind of the cash calf mentality. So not so much a cash cow in the beginning, just treat it like, and you guys both understand cattle, a calf, it needs nurturing and food and, maybe sometimes the right medicines and the right care. And then it becomes that cow that can really produce more. And that's really how we've approached every business. And sometimes we decide that we don't like to do it. And so we don't slaughter the cow, but maybe we sell the cow. We sell the cow and give it to someone else who wants to do it. And then sometimes we grow it into something that flourishes a little bit more. So at this point, that rock climbing gym, we built a building and it's in its own building now shares a space with Teton CrossFit. So we also run a CrossFit affiliate. We have a yoga studio there, which shows that you don't always have to be passionate about the business that you own. Like, definitely not passionate about yoga, but people
Oh, come
are.
on, Tyler. I can see you doing the yoga.
Yeah. It's fun to have that space for them. Aside from that, recently, within the last couple of years, I started an asphalt maintenance company. Also, you don't have to be passionate about seal coating in order to grow something that can add value to people. And then, like I had told you guys before we started, you already know it. Just I run a podcast, and that one's more kind of, I don't want to say it's selfish because I do try to get it out to as many people as possible, but just talk with kind of whoever I want to under the umbrella of learning. Just what can I learn from other people? And I want to bring people on that I don't maybe agree with them politically, or we have different business philosophy, and just try to learn whatever we can. And then something I don't really advertise, I don't have a website, don't really talk about, but word of mouth has kind of grown and it's been fun. Just have a little coaching thing called All In, and it's business, brain, and body. So just kind of a lifestyle of entrepreneurialism.
I love that. You know, when you first started your first couple businesses around the renting the rock wall space, and if I remember, even at the time, I remember you got a bus and you went around schools.
Oh, yeah.
And you did gymnastics at schools, right?
Yeah.
And for me, right, as an entrepreneur of 35 years, like I love seeing somebody say, you know, there's a little niche here. It's not about making money. It's about learning. In running this little business, I've got to go out and do marketing. I got to do advertising. I got to get customers. I got to collect money or pay an employee. But you learn all the steps of a business. And when you first did that, I remember thinking, that's not going to be some massive winner.
Yeah.
But I loved watching you do it because you were in the trenches, in the game, doing it. And so Zach and I talked a lot about that over the years, that little venture, watching you do it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's funny too, because there's a gymnastics world where if you have a 10,000 square foot facility and you have good coaches, you can make really good money teaching gymnastics. Then you're like, well, how could you make money with a bus driving around to schools and daycares and, like you said, marketing and all of that? But there's a whole bunch of kids out there that don't have the opportunity to go to a gymnastics center. So in a way, we could bring the gymnastics center to them. You know, they're kids that they're in daycare all day long. And, you know, when mom and dad get home, maybe there's not the financial means there to bring them to a gymnastics center. It was really cool to run that for a while. Definitely not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life, but cool to see the niche, like you said, and how you can take something as weird as a bus and gymnastics and put them together and make it successful.
And Zach, you know, what is to be said about what lessons you actually learn when you start something? Doesn't matter what it is, but you start it and go through that process. What does that mean to an entrepreneur, Zach?
Well, I think that's the biggest takeaway that I always take from podcasts when we talk to people or when we're talking to other people in business. It is the actual starting of the thing, right? In fact, I just had 2 kids in here last night that were like, I really want to start a business, but I don't know how. I'm thinking about going to school and get my master's degree in business. I'm like, no, whoa. Don't do that. You're gonna come out with $250,000 in debt. Like, you could put that $250,000 someplace else, right? Like, you can go learn it, but it is the starting of it. Like, you have to just start. And in fact, that's one of the things that I've always admired about Tyler over the years, because I remember the very first conversation that we had about you wanting to start a business. And it was like, whatever he gleaned from that meeting, it was like the next day, he's like, oh, I did it. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, I did it. And so, like, Tyler's always been the guy that's just like, I'm just going to go do it. Like, no fear. But that's the number one thing that I think holds most entrepreneurs back, or people that want to do something, is it's just that fear of starting, because they think there's like some secret sauce or some secret manual that they have to get behind a bachelor's degree or behind a master's in business. That's like, I'm going to go get this formula that's going to make me successful when I get out of here. But really, the formula is everybody has two motivators, pleasure or pain. And if you can figure out, like Tyler, you're talking about, okay, they can't come to the gym, but mom has a pain point. They want their kids to do gymnastic stuff and be athletic and move around and do all this stuff, but they don't have the money or the means or the time or the resources to take them to a gym. So Tyler's like, Well, I'll just solve that pain by coming to them, right? So it's like when you can figure out what the pain is, and then all of a sudden you have this formula of how to solve their pain, you just started a business, right?
Yeah.
And it really is just the starting of it. That if there was any secret sauce, like just write me a check. Let's call this Davis University. Write me a check for $250,000. I'll stamp you a diploma, and I'll send you a piece of paper that just says "just start."
Yeah,
like that is it. Just
yeah,
start.
no, that's spot on. I completely agree. And I've kind of put this together recently in my mind, starting and creating. So we're in a society where we're taught to be the consumer. So it's really easy to hop on Instagram and we consume all the dopamine and all the stuff. And then something pops up and we want to buy it. And then we watch the news and we're consuming. And I think it just starts to kind of bring us down. And then the fear pops in of, well, I don't know how to do anything else except for consume. But where humans are the most passionate is when we're creating. So like I said, I'm not really passionate about seal coating. Like I'm just not. Like it's great and it adds value to the there are other things that we've done that I'm not passionate about the thing, but it's so rewarding to build. And like you said, just start, just do something. And I can't tell you, and you guys, I'm sure you get this too. People are like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do that. I have a plan, but the plan's not perfect. I'm sorry, you're never going to start.
No.
You're never going to do it. You have to just go. But I don't have insurance. I don't have an LLC. Those are things that can come. Those are steps. You can hop on ChatGPT and say, give me the legal steps to start a business. But what step are you going to take?
You know, I also noticed this, that I love what you shared earlier about the creation of your rock wall, renting a little space and building one rock wall. Zach and I know now, and everyone in Southeast Idaho knows, you have the biggest, coolest rock wall gym in Rexburg, Idaho. It's unbelievable. What's the name of your gym there?
It's the Rock Gym. Just
The Rock
simple.
Gym.
The Rock Gym.
And it is absolutely stunning, beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful buildings on Highway 20 in Southeast Idaho. And here's what most people fall in the trap of. They say, I want to start a rock gym. I need to go get $3 million from somebody else to go start this rock gym, right? And those places typically always fail. When what you did, your analogy of the cash calf is how Zach and I have done every business. We call it bootstrapping, right? Like you start a business with what you can do, financially, not going and getting money. You start it and you prove the model and it starts to grow. Something starts to happen. You get some employees, you get some customers, you get some things. And then it's much easier to take that to the next stage of a massive, most beautiful rock gym in Southeast Idaho. That doesn't happen. Most people go about it backwards, especially kids in college. They go, I got to go create this monstrous thing and take this money. What are the lessons you've learned doing it your way versus the way that most people fail?
Yeah, no, I that's a great question. We were actually interviewing for a head route setting position before this, and there were two different people. We've narrowed it down, and it's funny because they were the complete opposite of each other. One is kind of principles first, like I have some principles and this is what I want to get out of it. And the other one is more trendy, like, well, this is what is happening in the climbing world. And I'm hoping this answers the question. The whole idea is you don't have to do it like everybody else. And you guys have all seen restaurants that start out, they don't have a name, they build this huge facility, and within 6 months they're out of business. But then there was a business up here that ran out of a trailer and he sold teriyaki chicken, and I would wait in that line for 45 minutes to get teriyaki chicken. Then he moved to a place before he was ready, and it went out of business. So what I was explaining with our manager there today is we don't have to do it like everybody else. So people are thinking in their mind, well, I have to go through all these legal steps and I have to get $3 million for the gym. And our wall was completely primitive. It was only 22 feet tall. I built it myself. I had never built a rock climbing wall in my life. This is back before AI and everything. And I just had to research online, like, how can I build this and make it safe? But then you have to kind of work the numbers out too. Like, what's the minimum amount of people that need to come in for me to just pay the bills? Okay, well, that's easy. That's not hard to do at all. So now let's market it even more. And I I think if you can prove yourself at that small scale, it's really easy to scale a business after that. You go, I throw this much into marketing and I'm making it work and people are happy. Well, now you have a plan in place to maybe bring it to an investor that does have the 3 million, but you've proven yourself first. And I really am so grateful for the individuals who gave us that first loan. It was $15,000. Now that's hilarious now that I think of it. Like, and to my wife and I were like, who's ever going to loan us $15,000? That's crazy. And even at that time, I didn't have in my mind, like, I need to go out and work and make 15,000. And no, like I was going to make it work however we needed to make it work. But then you can take that $15,000, work that into a workable business model that is succeeding. Now, success is relative. Like to us at the time, it was very successful. And then it's much easier to take that plan and go, hey, I can build this now. And there's probably something there with self-integrity. Like we need to be making promises to ourselves and actually keeping them. And so once you prove yourself to yourself, it's a lot easier to just step back and make larger things happen.
That's awesome. By the way, I'm just going to tell you right now, you said earlier, you're not in love with seal coating. But I have no doubt, Zach, that in the next 10 years, his seal coating business will be like paving Highway 20.
Oh, 100%.
It's on the same trajectory.
100%. That's just Tyler.
Well, I appreciate it. It's either that or sell the business. So
That's it. That's it. But it's a principle that Zach and I we've followed our whole business life, right? That you get into something, you just get it started. You manage it with as little overhead as possible. You grow it, and you find out if there's a customer base, and then you let the business tell you what the customer wants when they vote with their dollar. You don't go into a project and lay it out on paper and go, I think I know what the customer wants, and they're going to vote with their dollar and spend a whole bunch of money in the wrong direction. We'd rather let's see where the customer votes with their dollar based on the smallest way we can do it. So, Zach, anything to add there?
Yeah, and I think the whole idea of the scaling, like a lot of people will look at starting a business and they're like, oh, I'm going to go do this thing. And at the end of the day, that thing won't actually produce enough income for them to have a business. They become self-employed, right? Where they have to be there now, they have to run it, they have to do it. And so I think the idea of scaling is actually a really important idea, is not only starting small, but I think you have to look forward as well and go, okay, will this scale? And I remember that first conversation with Tyler on the rock wall was like, hey, there was no facility in the town that he did this in. There wasn't one, right? And this is a college town. Like there's a customer base there for a recreational facility like that. But young, like, sheesh, I'm trying to remember, Tyler, you had to be like 21, 22, 20. Like, we were both young. We were really young. But it was like, hey, this idea has some place to go, right? It can scale. And so, most people lock themselves into a business where it's a dead end before it starts because there is no scalability. So I think looking into the future as well with like what you've done is going, hey, this can go someplace, but we're going to start there today. And then this idea of, I call micro commitments, right? Yeah. Most people don't actually accomplish their goals because they've created a pattern where they've taught themselves that they're not reliable, right? So they set this goal and they're like, well, I'm not going to get it anyway because I never hit my goals. Well, as you wish, right? What you put out there is what you'll get, but it's because people don't keep micro commitments. But if you just make small commitments to yourself and then you keep those, all of a sudden what you've done is you've taught yourself that you're a reputable person with integrity. And when you make a commitment, you keep it. And so like you're saying, Tyler, you can make bigger commitments and do bigger things because you've built that confidence over time, right? That you can do it.
Yeah. And also just starting and doing it, you're going to learn what you enjoy and what you don't. And I'd never want to put it out there that I always only do what I want to do. Like when we start a business, we're in it 100%. We're the technician, we're the manager, we're the owner, we're everything. But like you talked about scaling, that's not the long-term goal with it. And what I've found is I really enjoy starting businesses. I enjoy the initial marketing. I like putting the colors together, figuring out what equipment we need to get. I enjoy that starting. I don't actually enjoy running the business after that. I just don't. So it was
No
cool.
entrepreneur does, Tyler. No real
Yeah.
entrepreneur does.
We
It
like
was
to
cool to
create.
figure out. Yeah, it was cool to figure out there are people that are much better than I am, and they are smarter in all those regards, and it's what they want to do. Well, that's perfect because I can get something started. We can hand it off to a very competent manager that's going to make it much better than than I can do it. And it's what's fun about that is we can just continue to roll that and just continue doing it. And some businesses we keep a hold of, and some businesses we choose to sell, and and some businesses fail, and that's okay. Like, people are so worried, right? Fear just grips us. Like, we're so scared of the outcome until we go through something and we go, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Well, that's perfect. Go through that. Like, I mean, fail forward. I don't know who first came up with that, but I know you guys are both familiar with that. Just fail forward, because we're going to have these micro failures or even massive failures. It doesn't matter. Like, in the grand scheme of it, just learn from it, and it's going to be different next time.
And once you fail a few times, there's no fear around failure once you've done it. So he's got to go through that. I want to go back to something you said earlier that I think is really powerful, especially for a lot of our listeners. This idea of you're full-time entrepreneur now, but you said that was only 6 or 7 years ago. You said you were part-time entrepreneur before it became necessary that, hey, I can walk away from my my paramedic job. I think there's a real power in that, and most successful entrepreneurs end up in that, and lots of people don't get an opportunity to get there because they don't take the opportunity when they have an income or a steady job, and they don't use their time after hours effectively enough to become a full-time entrepreneur. So let's just talk about that for a few minutes. What did you learn going through that process of being a part-time entrepreneur and a full-time paramedic, and what lessons could maybe a listener learn from that, and what encouragement?
I wish I could tell people a formula that you can follow. Like, if you make this percentage of your income and then you give it yourself full-time to it, then it's all going to work out. I never figured out a formula, so I really had to just go on what I felt and what my wife felt. My wife, for like probably 4 years before I actually pulled the trigger to just go full-time entrepreneur, she's like, hey, you should quit your job. You should quit your job. I just never felt good about it. And I don't know if that was a self-confidence thing or just the security of knowing that I had a paycheck. I mean, there is security in it. It's just you're also giving something else up. What I learned from it the most is that I think you just have to, we're kind of coming back to this in this discussion, is just coming back to trusting yourself. You have to make enough commitments with yourself while you're committing to a full-time job, and knowing that you're going to follow through on those, that at some point it just clicks. Oh, if I say I can do this, I can do this. It just maybe took me longer than others. It took me 10 years of working a full-time job, and in order to just trust myself enough to do it. And I also don't want to come across as that I have full confidence and everything's always going to be fine. Like, I still doubt it every once in a while. A job position will come up at the fire department. I see it, I'm like, that was pretty nice. But, I'm there enough, or I'm aware of all of it enough, and I trust myself enough that I don't need to. I just don't want to come across as like full absolute confidence, which maybe I should, but
No, I think there's a lot to be said for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I might ask you too, Tyler. So there is a difference, I think, once you go full-time entrepreneur and part-time entrepreneur, because most people have an employee mindset, right? It's like, I get up at a certain time in the morning, I go to my job, somebody tells me what to do, I come home, I kick the dog, I beat the wife, I yell at the kids, drink some beer, I watch some TV, I go to bed, right? And I complain about the fact that I'm not winning in life, like that.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot from people, like just complaining about life. So what are some things that you had to give up? Like when you started part-time as an entrepreneur, right? What did you have to give up, both like habit-wise, to be able to put it together and be an entrepreneur? Like, just there were some costs, right? You pay the price.
Absolutely. Yeah, my
What
wife
had to change?
We joke around like we missed the first 3 years of our marriage, of our family. Like, we were together. I think for our first 5 years married, there wasn't a day that we were apart. We were working the business together. We were going to school together. We were managing apartments together. And maybe that's one of them. Like, we didn't have kind of a normal get married and that honeymoon phase of, we started a business before we even got married. So, I mean, our first several years was just going to school, working, doing a business. There was some cost there. I'm actually not sad about it at all. I think we learned some invaluable things that most people don't get, but there are definitely things that you give up. I haven't really shared this much. I'm not against sharing it, but you guys should hear it, because, and maybe it. Anyways, I'll just say it. So when I was full-time, and then I went full-time paramedic, and then I went full-time entrepreneur, I didn't make the shift well because business was good, and I didn't move over and continue to create. I left my job and I had no purpose. The businesses ran themselves. They were doing fine. We had built up a pretty good cash reserve. Everything was good, but I wasn't good. I didn't sleep very good at all, so I started taking Ambien, and then I started abusing Ambien, and it was not good. I was taking naps on it. Like, it was bad. So a couple of years ago, I went to rehab, and that's really where everything shifted for me. Like, life was very difficult, but I made it more difficult by trying to check out. So some people choose Instagram, some people choose alcohol, some people choose pornography. I chose Ambien because when I took it, I was gone. I didn't have to worry about the business. I didn't have to worry about the bad things or the good thing. Like, I was just gone. Very self-destructive, very bad path. Couldn't kick it on my own. So ended up going to a 4-month program, and that was the game changer. I never thought that would be my struggle in life. I just figured, everyone has struggles. It'll all be good. I didn't know that mine would be a pill. That's really where the shift was made. Like, if you can kick a very self-destructive habit and know that you can't do it yourself. I had to rely on others, had to rely on God or whatever people believe in, whatever, if it's a power, whatever it is. If you can do that, you can kind of do anything. So that was the big one for me. Life has been completely different after all that. More present with my kids, more present with my wife. Business is great. I love business, but that's actually not what matters either. If I still had a job, that wouldn't be what matters. My kids can eat, they have a roof over their head, and I try to give them kind of once in a lifetime opportunities, which doesn't mean we have to go to Africa. We can do that here in Rexburg. That was the big shift for me. What's interesting is once that shift is made, life kind of starts working out in a really good direction. I was trying so hard before to force it in a good direction. Now, it's almost like aligning your will with the cosmos. It's actually a thing. I used to probably think it was kind of hokey, well, what you think about, you bring about. So if I think about it, I'm going to get whatever I want. It doesn't really work like that. What you think about, you bring about, because you've aligned your will with a greater cause, with a larger consciousness that exists. That's when things really start to work out.
I'm glad you're willing to share that, because Zach and I, we've said this lots to each other and to countless groups around the world. Entrepreneurs who find success oftentimes find success, and if they're not careful, success will make them a little bit complacent. Will get them in a spot they lose purpose. And if an entrepreneur, or any man or woman, but really an entrepreneur, if they don't have purpose, they will self-destruct. Zach and I, at age 35 and 33, found ourselves in a similar spot. We've made more money than we both had probably ever dreamed of making in our life, right? Definitely more than our dads had ever helped us dream to make, right? Real money.
Yeah.
We found ourselves playing golf every day, 5 days a week. Every day, 10 a.m. playing golf.
Sometimes a couple rounds a day.
Yeah. And we stood on the number 11 tee box at the Idaho Falls Country Club after doing it for over a year and a half and turned to each other and said, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, yes, our families are great. We have all the time in the world. We have all the money in the world. But guess what? We don't have a purpose. We're not helping anyone else. We're not creating all the things that got us to all of that what the world would call greatness was actually a demise because we didn't have purpose to help anyone else. And the businesses we were in at the time, self-serving, oil and gas, we made money every day. Oil came out of the ground and it just came to us, but it didn't help anyone. And I think an entrepreneur always needs a purpose. And it sounds like you went through that and found that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely not how I assumed I would learn that, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's just, you got to learn it in a way that speaks to you exactly. And I mean, luckily you guys had each other too, just great friends. And you're like, hey, come on, like we got to do something here. That's awesome. So I don't want that to like scare anyone either. Cause we talk about fear and how there's fear there, fear of starting a business, fear of failure, fear of really like our greatest fears may actually become our greatest strengths. And that's not like a cliche thing. You can read any autobiography of any successful person, and there is some crux in their life that if it's approached correctly, that's their biggest catapult. And so I don't know how far it'll catapult. I hope it's far. But honestly, even if it doesn't, even if financial success just kind of peaked where it's at right now, I know what's important, and that's actually more important than anything. Now, I also believe that if you have the right principles in place, then all the other stuff can fall in. Like financial success will just follow you if your right principles are in place. You have the right habits. My habits were going in a very, very poor direction. Well, now I'm able to because like you said, I'm pretty driven. So, and I'm kind of like either 0 or 100. Unfortunately, I was going 100 in the wrong direction. Once you find that, then you can go 100 in the other direction, but still know what's important in your life. And that's, just kind of invaluable. So like I said, I love business. We will always do business, but also we have to approach business in a way of how are we serving our families? How are we serving our friends? How are we adding, because we talk value creation, we sell a seal coat job and someone's asphalt is now going to last longer. That's value creation. Like, how are we creating value in our own lives, or how are we serving that higher power?
I don't want to maybe take us down this rabbit hole too far, but we just came out of, right? Yeah. Well, we just came out of what I consider to be one of the great American tragedies of our lifetime in the loss of Charlie Kirk. Right.
Yeah.
And I've thought a lot about this lately, and what you just shared is true. There's a great divide happening in the world, and namely in our country, where young men, namely young men who are COVID era young men who went through COVID as teenagers, who went into a hole and they watched, their phone and their TV and didn't socialize and those things. They're coming out of that in a way where they're not seeing the true purpose of man, which is family. And what you just shared, right? Success of an entrepreneur, it all gets to a spot where money no longer matters and all you care about. You've worked so hard for money, good or bad, lost or won, doesn't matter. And you realize all that matters is my posterity. All that matters is my children and my spouse. But we're living in a time, and we've just watched the two great dichotomies, right? A great gulf where a man was spending his whole life sharing that message, that the real purpose is family. And another man took his life because he shared that, because it didn't align with his life and family. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, all entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is family. And I'm bold enough to say it. I know Zach is, and you are, right? That is the purpose that all men and women need, is family. Any thoughts for either one of you around it? Rabbit hole, but.
Well, I mean, like I said, I love rabbit holes, but I actually think that's just the opening, not even a rabbit hole. It's just the opening to what should drive entrepreneurs. Because, like, I don't know, we're all on Instagram every once in a while. the Lamborghinis, the mansions. What is that? No, like our family. Knowing that this morning I woke up kind of when I wanted to, but still in enough time to help kids get off to school. My wife and I get to go work out together. I get to do stuff like this in the middle of the day. Then I have to go get clothes for pictures we have to take tonight as a family. But I'll do it because it's important. You know, like that's the most driven. That's the most I can be driven for that because that's what actually matters. Like I don't care about a Ferrari's cool, but just not for me, you know? So that's the opening, not the rabbit hole. That's actually what we should all be looking at.
Yeah, I think that's the mainstream, really, right? And if you look at society today and the degradation of the family, like it really is, and the economy where both partners in a lot of cases have to work. I don't know that that's by accident. Like I think that's partly by design, to distract people and destroy this core nucleus of what the family is. Because I think it is interesting, almost that I would say to a fault, almost every entrepreneur that I know that like, you know, like you said, Josh, gets to a certain point and they're like, what am I doing? Like, what is all this for? What is this about? I miss my kids, right? I miss my family. Like I could give all this up today and I would be just fine because I want to go spend time with my kids and, you know, my wife and my kids. And there really is a greater purpose in doing that. And I think that's a really good motivator for entrepreneurs and business people, is to build that lifestyle. But I think a lot of them miss the opportunity to bring the kids along, right?
Yeah.
And teach them those core principles and let them work in the business and on the business with you, and teach them how to build that legacy and move on so that you are spending time with them. And I think everybody has, you know, these destructive behaviors, whatever they are, whether you're a business owner or whether you're working a 9-to-5 or you're currently unemployed looking for a job. Like I think everyone has these destructive behaviors where they're channeling some type of creativity into that they should be channeling into something else.
Yeah.
And that, you know, like you said, that recognition, once you were like, wait, hold on, this is a destructive behavior, not getting me closer to where I want to be. It could be just scrolling social media more hours in a day than what you should be, right? I mean, or overeating or whatever it is. But learning how to be disciplined, I think, is really critical as an entrepreneur, because nobody called you this morning and was like, hey, Tyler, one more time sleeping in and you get a pink slip.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Sure.
nobody's doing that. When you're the entrepreneur, the boss, you have to have the discipline to show up, and nobody's going to look at the financial statement for you and know where you got to do what you got to do, or make the phone call for you. Or so learning how to be disciplined and channel those behaviors that we've gotten so good at in America, of like just burying ourselves in consumption, like you say, just to feel good. And if all that was channeled into actually building something cool, we'd be an incredible nation.
For sure. And like Jocko, he says discipline equals freedom. A lot of times, and I think I've fallen into this in the past, we think freedom is doing whatever you want, whenever you want. It's really not. It's discipline. If I want to be healthy, I have to eat these types of food most of the time, and I have to work out this way, this many times a week. And if I want my business to grow, I need to do these things. That's true freedom. And that's where agency is pretty awesome, because we get to choose that success. Then we get to define that success in our mind, and we can just kind of do whatever we want as long as it's the right thing.
It's awesome. And you know, we mentioned earlier, Zach asked the question, right? Is the sacrifice worth it when you were an early entrepreneur? And I would just always tell any entrepreneur that's aspiring to become one or getting started, I would just say, if your purpose is right, and if your motives are genuine, it's always worth the sacrifice, because there is a great power that comes in being a dad or a mom who gets to be with their kids, or be more present when they are there. Or in your case, you know, you used a phrase that Zach and I both like, and that's to give your children or your posterity some once in a lifetime opportunities, right? It's even better when you get to do that on a pretty consistent basis, right?
Yeah.
And those are good motives for a man or a woman to go strive for excellence. In closing the day, you know, I would two things. Any parting advice you would give that you would give an entrepreneur? Number one, and number two, you got to tell us the name of your podcast, where the folks can go see it, where they can
Oh
get
yeah,
a hold of
thank
it,
you.
and some of those things.
Yeah, as far as the first one, just learn to trust yourself. I think I'm still learning to trust myself, but the more I tell myself something and I actually follow through with it, the more success I see. And that success may be financial, it may be relationships, it may be spiritual, it's everything. Just learn to trust yourself. I actually think, sadly, most people don't trust themselves. That's why you're not going to go out and start a business. It's why you're not going to get to the body weight that you want to be. It's why you can't get your blood pressure down. We're just telling ourselves that we want something without taking the action to trust ourselves enough to actually go and do it. And that's sounds easier than it is too. Like, you have to start with very small things. I'm going to wake up in the morning and drink a glass of water. I'm going to hop online and I'm just going to submit my papers for the LLC. Like, it's just simple steps. But once you do it and you start to trust yourself, you can kind of do anything you want. And I think as you trust yourself too, your path will become more solid, because you're not just doing something out of recklessness. You're doing it because you trust yourself enough to actually go and do the right thing. So that's the parting words. As far as the podcast, it's kind of everywhere. iTunes, Spotify, our iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, but just called 2 Lessons Learned. I'm really good at recording episodes from like September through April. Then there's kind of a lull in the summer.
Hey, I know a couple guys like that.
Yeah. The latest episode, it's pretty good. And then, like you had mentioned about Charlie Kirk, there was a guy that really wanted to come on, and I thought we were going to talk about his job. He's special forces, special teams, and does some stuff. And I was like, man, this is cool. We're going to like talk about the nitty gritty and what all this is. And he came in and the conversation started off that he grew up in polygamist RLDS family in Montana. And he's had a couple very spiritual things that has happened. And he's like, I've got to get this message out that people need to come to Christ. And I was like, this is not the episode that I thought it was going to be. I'm so grateful that it happened. So there's those kind of episodes. You talked rabbit holes, Josh. We definitely hopped down some rabbit holes. There's Olympians and physicians and CrossFit Games athletes, and just want to learn from people. Like, we're all so unique. Like, we're all entrepreneurs, but each one of us are so incredibly different. And I can learn something from each of you that you're just going to say it in a way that I can't learn it any other way. And so that's the whole idea with the podcast. Just learn from humanity to become a better human.
That's awesome. Well, we love what you're doing there. We love what you're doing in the community. And you're always an example out there in our community of trying to help new young entrepreneurs. You're always willing to share your advice. So Zach, any parting words and things that you learned today that you maybe want to highlight?
Yeah, thanks, Tyler, for coming on. Appreciate being able to spend some more time with you, and really appreciate your vulnerability too. Like, that's not an easy thing to talk about, like that addiction, right? And so hopefully, if we have any listeners that are going through anything like that, hopefully they were inspired to say, you know what, maybe I ought to get a handle on this, and someone can help me go do it. So I think that's pretty awesome that you shared that. So,
and to them individually, honestly, like, you can reach out to me. I know it seems so simple, like reach out to somebody, but really I didn't feel that I had anybody I could go to. I had to kind of hide because I'm the business owner, and I own the Rock Gym and CrossFit, and I'm teaching everyone CrossFit and lifestyle, and I can't tell anyone. I can't tell anybody, but there is somebody out there that people can talk to, and that's just the very first step. So people I don't even know you, but reach out to me, and I'm going to understand you a little bit more than you think. So yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep going there.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Awesome.
I just in closing, just want you to know we really appreciate you and your willingness to share. I know there's listeners out there today that have taken something to heart and have thought, hey, I could do something different, or I could try, or I could get started. And at the end of the day, that's the only reason we exist. Zach and I and guys like Tyler, we're super busy, but we take a few minutes out of our week because it's super important to us, for all three of us, that the next generation of us tries, as you put it, trust in their self enough to go do it, to start, to think differently. The world has plenty of people who are not thinking like us. And we won't get to the next phase of our human development on this earth without more of us out in the world. And so for that, we're super grateful for you taking the time today, Tyler. Go get your family pictures and make sure you look good for your wife in them, okay?
Cool. Thank you, guys.
All right. You guys have a great week. Until next time on the Sound Money, Sound Principles podcast. See you later. Have a great week.
All right. See you, everybody. See you, Tyler. Thanks.